Welcome to the Tourism AI podcast, where we talk about all things at the intersection of artificial intelligence and tourism. Today, Matthew, Kendel, and I are back together to chat about a bunch of different things. And full disclosure, this is our second attempt at actually recording this podcast because I've been vibe coding with Claude Code, and I think I almost made my computer explode the last time we were trying to have this conversation. So I really went kind of crazy. Here we are, round two, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things. I do want to share a little bit about Claude Code as well. We'll maybe get into that a little bit, but why don't we let you kick it off, Kendall?
Sure. Yeah. So to confirm, Claude Code is running right now. We're
No,
good.
Claude Code is running in the background.
All right. We won't freeze and stop then. Awesome. So it's been a few weeks. It's been a minute since we got together and had a chat. I feel like this last, I don't even know how long it's been, but let's just call it 6 weeks. It has flown by. I feel like so much has happened. So much has changed. There's lots in the news cycle. But one thing that was announced that we haven't talked about yet is you were recently in Vegas at a tech conference and you were awarded an award, the Trendsetter to watch. So congratulations on that. Hoping that we can just kick off the pod with just you talking a little bit about what you were doing there and what you announced.
Yeah, so I mean, it was nice to go and get a little recognition, but really what we made an announcement while we were there, and I kind of spoke on a panel about a kind of a really a change in direction, not really a change in direction, but a change in focus for our marketing agency, CIPR Communications, but also kind of in tourism AI network as well. And so really what we talked about and announced is what we call our digital authority framework, and really kind of leading with, becoming or making sure we are focused on being a digital authority builder. And so, a little bit of context for that. I'm going to take a little bit of a step back because, we're talking about Tourism AI Network, and then we're talking about CIPR Communications, our marketing agency. And really over the last few months, I've been really thinking about kind of the intersection of those two things. And I came up with something called the Two Journeys Framework, which is really kind of my main keynote presentation to tourism now, actually to any association I talk to. And because I came to this realization that really every business, whether they like it or not, is on two journeys now. And one of the journeys I named AI maturity, and that's really the work of Tourism AI Network. So that's, data maturity, data integrity, AI sort of learning and education, custom AI development, really everything around becoming an AI-enabled organization. We're now 3 getting into 4 years past that GPT moment, and the technology sort of really cemented itself, and I think everybody's going from just playing around with the tools to actually building AI into their organizations. And so that's the AI maturity is really the role that Tourism AI Network plays to help tourism organizations sort of with their AI maturity. But the other journey that every business is on, which is equally important, and actually I'd say more important maybe in the short term for tourism, is digital authority. And really the change of what's happened there is, AI has not only changed our businesses in terms of the tools we have available to use and figure out and change management and all of things, but it's also actually really changed the game a lot for search visibility and for being found online, and on, and in tourism, how people plan their trips on the internet now, right? And so that world has also drastically changed, and consumers are actually way ahead of tourism organizations in terms of using these tools to plan their trips. And but there's a lot of things that are happening when they use those tools to plan their trips that are very concerning. So, digital authority is actually kind of a mix of different services that we've brought together, that I've done, honestly, more research than I care to even talk about around all of this and all the best practices. And I know, Kendall, you've been deep diving into a whole bunch of things, and like, what is really the essence of being found online, found and trusted online in this new AI world. And that's really what digital authority is all about.
Yeah, so I know we're going to kind of dig into these topics here too, but I want to just bring it back to this change that we made kind of organizationally. So we talk a lot about in our AI training, the training that you and Matthew do with organizations, about how AI adoption is really about change management, and it happens with, kind of the people first. And we talk a lot about just how to incorporate these conversations into like your day-to-day operations with your team. So I did want to just like even take a step back from what digital authority is and how it works. And I just want to talk a minute about how you have kind of presented this change to the organization on a daily basis, and just like that process, if you could walk us through it, because I think it's really great.
Yeah, so I mean, we've been working kind of, one of the principles that we follow in our own company is be your own use case, if you will, or sort of test it on yourself before you test it with others. And so, this whole digital authority path that we're on and AI maturity path that we're on and the two journeys and the whole component of it, we've been kind of rolling out internally in our organization as well. And so, we've really built, so just for context, we do a morning huddle every morning for 15 minutes with our team. And so actually, we're just finished it now, but over the month of April, we did basically a morning huddle, really talking about all of these components of how our organization is going to change as a result of kind of all the changes happening in the world and how we're reorganizing and repositioning and all this kind of stuff. And really, we had, 15-minute little mini either presentations or workshops that we did to get the whole team on side, right? And to get the whole staff kind of on the same page and sort of make sure everybody's. I always tell people when we do training, it's, communications happens when everybody has the same understanding about something, right? And so, and this, Kendall, because we've been doing a lot of workshops and working one-on-one with people and, how to use tools and kind of all this kind of stuff. And it's still hard getting consistent adoption, right? And so I think the program, I don't know. I'd love to hear from you guys, but the program I rolled out in April just to kind of get our whole team on the same page, understanding all the concepts, understanding how it all works together, understanding how it's going to roll forward. Hopefully, got our whole team kind of aligned and on the same page. So I don't know. You guys were on the receiving end of it. Why don't you guys tell me how it went for you and whether it was good?
Yeah, it went really successfully. I think, to the point of we experiment on ourselves, we also practice what we preach to others as well. I think, we talk a lot about how to introduce new things. And I think when we are talking to organizations about introducing AI, a lot of things that come up include, how are other people perceiving this? Are people on board with this? Are people going to be very against this, and meeting them where they're at? And I think introducing things in this way and having a conversation throughout, every work day, slowly kind of introducing like what this is and why this is happening, how this is going to, change the work we do and how each of us has a role to play. I think it introduced it in the best possible way where it's not just like you know, we wake up and all of a sudden people are doing things a different way just because we said so. It's like we've actually talked about this and everyone kind of understands their place in it and they're not being, kind of caught off guard.
Yeah, I think too, just spending so much time on it, like rolling it out over the course of a month. Again, I think just it really allowed everybody to fully absorb and get on the same page. And the discussions that we were able to have kind of on a daily basis as kind of you're trickling in this new information. I know Matthew, you facilitated some of those discussions as well while Peter was off speaking at some speaking engagements. So I think you did a really good job there too. Just a shout out to you there as well. But even taking it one step further, we also recorded like all of our morning huddles. So maybe Matthew, you can talk about like, so we have all the transcripts from like these little sessions and our conversations about it. And like, what are we going to do with those transcripts now? Like, how do we take that even one step further?
Yeah, having information, Peter has said it as well that, information and data is like the currency. It's going to be the currency. And I think it's not even the currency necessarily of business being successful, like selling things or whatever, but also for businesses like developing internally. And like, if you're not gathering this kind of information, like you're missing out on making changes that are based on the information. And so it's like one thing to, obviously we made this whole presentation to show people throughout the month. We can't predict what they're going to say and what, things we may learn from it. And I don't remember necessarily what everyone said 2 months ago or 1 month ago, even throughout the weeks. So having it documented and having it all in one place, we create this like knowledge hub that we can basically ask it now. Okay, this is what we presented. What did people say about it? And what do we need to kind of take from it? And what changes can we make? Or how should we, deploy this differently? And it basically helps us deploy it in the best way for our team as individuals.
Yeah, and I think, Kendall, you obviously updated our AI roadmap from those conversations, and so it's really, really current. And I almost see that to some extent as like a ongoing kind of document that gets kind of constantly, almost to some extent. Without
Mhm.
There's obviously some core stuff that never gets updated, but as the world evolves, the tactics and the specificities need to evolve with it and stuff, right? So I think it was really neat the way you were able to kind of take that and actually roll that into that roadmap in real time, right?
Yeah, it's again very fun to put into practice what we teach.
Yeah.
in real time. Awesome. So getting back to kind of the announcement and the two journeys framework, we have the AI maturity on the kind of the TAIN side. And I don't think we've like kind of fully even rolled that out in terms of what that looks like, but there is a concept called the Invisible Innovators, right? And so that's organizations who are using AI internally, but they're kind of invisible externally. And we've had experience working with some organizations that are like that. How common is that in tourism?
I think it's super common, actually. I think it's kind of, well, I mean, yeah, it's super common, but I don't even know if companies necessarily know that
Mhm,
that's what they are. You know what I mean? So like
mhm,
that, like I think what we're trying to do is put some frameworks and some language and some sort of ways to kind of like talk about things in ways for around concepts and ideas that sort of weren't even concepts and ideas necessarily like 6 months ago, I guess, or a year ago. You know what I mean? So again, I think we're so I think there's a lot of the organizations we work with are exactly that, invisible innovators, and or they're tradition. The other one's called traditionalists, where it's like they're not innovating, or they have maybe one person innovating and nobody else is, and so right, and it's like the big kind of shift for me, I think, around AI maturity generally is going. I think what I've realized is there's everybody's using AI, and we've talked about this a lot. Everybody's using tools, but there's a big difference between people playing with tools, often free tools, never team tools, to like team-based tools with systems and processes for the team to so that's a very big shift, right? And like so I think there's some organizations that are doing some of that. There's some organizations where you have these like really innovative people that are like accelerating very fast, but their colleagues aren't keeping up with, they don't even know what they're doing, right? So to me it's all about and I think all of this started with my kind of one of my favorite sayings from Coach Steve, which we've talked about before, but every organization is the sum of its conversations. It's like these are conversations that need to be had, and people need to understand where they sit kind of on the map of innovation and visibility and all these types of things, right? And yeah, and then sort of figure out what their moves are to get to to where they want to go.
mhm. Yeah, this might be like a chicken and egg question, but do you think organizations that are kind of going through like an AI adoption framework, for example, so like really taking on that internal training, do you think that that needs to happen at some level before exploring digital authority in a sense, like to
No, so I think
understand?
digital authority actually is in some ways first. And because really, I mean, digital authority, so just maybe I'll unpack digital authority a little bit. So digital authority is really the kind of visibility side of a business, right? So, I've kind of built this program, this digital authority kind of program based on the research, as I mentioned, and it has four components. So search visibility, and that's traditional search like Google search, but also AI search. And that's the big emerging kind of, that's the big trigger that's triggered all of this, quite frankly. And then in order to build that digital authority and really to be able to be found everywhere and trusted everywhere, you need the search visibility. So you still need some technical foundations to be right on your website. Then you need editorial credibility, which is more the PR side and what other people are saying about you, kind of components of it. Then you need content depth, because really you need to be the subject matter expert on your content, on your kind of area of the world. And then you need what's called digital consistency. So how aligned is your message across all digital surfaces, sites, social media, press releases, AI search responses, et cetera, right? So those are all four components of digital authority. And quite frankly, being too focused on AI maturity when you don't have the foundations in place from a digital authority perspective, all it's going to do is accelerate you faster in the wrong direction. And so that's kind of like you actually, I think, probably should do the digital authority first and at least get some consistency of what's your brand message, what's your brand promise, what are you talking about, how do you describe yourself, all of that kind of stuff, so that it's very aligned. Because once you start building AI maturity to be able to do marketing faster, do communications faster, do social faster, you have the right foundation in place, right? And so that's like, for me, that was the big aha moment, is that like actually these things are very, very interconnected. And so becoming really good in one helps you be better at the other, right? And so Matthew and I, obviously, when we teach AI maturity and we teach all these programs and we teach the context systems and all that kind of stuff, like you can't build a good context document until you actually have good message is about who you are and right? Like what you're trying to serve and how you're trying to be in the world, right? Like, so there's sort of an area of operation or an order of operations that's really important here. And so first of all, understanding where you are on the map is really important. And then sort of like kind of getting the right pieces aligned first so that you can kind of start accelerating in the other directions is the path that we're trying to help build for people to help them understand how to get from A to B.
No, it's really interesting. And I think, we do AI search visibility audits
Yeah.
for organizations. And a few months ago, we kind of felt like that was a really good connector between our agency, CIPR Communications, and the work that we do with TAIN. And things are still evolving. And now we have a digital authority, I don't know what you would call it, like an audit, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right. So how does that connect TAIN and CIPR? Do you know what I mean? Like, because just what you're saying there, like I kind of in my head almost saw AI, like internal AI adoption as like feeding digital authority, but then you just said the reverse, right?
Yeah.
So like what's the connection between the two of them?
Yeah. So the connection between the two of them really is like, if you think about it, and this is, kind of Matthew and I talked about this a little bit this morning, but it's like if you actually think about it, what we're actually doing is getting ourselves prepared for the agentic AI future. And that really means the world where AI systems can actually execute tasks from beginning to end without human intervention. And we're in that future now, by the way. Like this is not a future. I keep calling it the future, but like we are in the agentic moment right now, and it's being developed and rolled out very fast. But in order for you to have AI agents that can execute tasks for you, first you need to have all of your information, your data in a readable, like clean, organized kind of way. Because the AI agents, just like humans, if it's a mess and you have, two brand statements that say slightly different things, and you have two, you know what I mean? Like, so in the, obviously the AI, the digital authority piece is everything related to brand, and the TAIN sort of AI maturity is everything related to brand plus some other stuff. And so fundamentally, in order to make AI systems work for us, we have to like well define all of these things, well structure all of these things, and kind of get it all set up so that the AI systems can actually kind of take all of these things and then give them and then actually work with them, right? So that's kind of where I say it's like if you're, and I think I told this, maybe I didn't tell this story, but like we did this big digital authority audit on CIPR Communications as my first audit. And it was very fascinating to me that basically it came back. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So the reality of the world now and how the world has changed in search is that, before you used to be able to do a bunch of SEO stuff. You used to be able to build a website, say whatever you wanted on your website, do really good SEO, show up high on Google, and that's who you were. You know what I mean? And that's how you presented yourself to the world. But AI systems look at the digital space differently, and they have the ability to look across a bunch of different assets and actually verify that you are who you are and that the claims you're making are accurate, and see what the world is saying about what you say and does it align and all this kind of stuff, right? So there's nowhere to hide anymore. Like you really got to be a true, honest brand. And so again, like you need to build that foundation of like who you are, who you serve, how you position yourself in the world, and it needs to be consistent across the entire internet, but it also has to be consistent across your internal systems in order for the AI to actually be able to tell that story or help you tell that story, right? And help you build marketing and communications assets, but also then help you build other things, operational assets and sales assets and all of the other things that, that a business would need, right? So yeah, it's sort of like this, really a digital foundation is the beginning of all of it, and really being really honest with yourself about who you are and what is your place in the world is kind of the most logical starting point in my mind.
Yeah, I think like a key like thing that you said there and something to pay attention to is that like when we talk about having digital authority, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be already like, number one recommended on ChatGPT or search or whatever to start AI adoption, but you need to be directionally in the right place of,
Right.
okay, what do we say our company is? What is our plan with growing our digital authority? Because to your point of like, if that's not in the right place, then any AI adoption you're doing is built on discombobulated like references of who your company is and all that. You don't have to like get to that point right away to like, okay, we're top of the search now. Let's focus on AI adoption. It's let's focus on digital authority in terms of our plan and who we want to be. And AI adoption can then happen alongside that to, power it basically. I see it as like digital authority is kind of, it starts with that pointing you in the right direction, and then AI adoption is kind of like the gas that lets you accelerate basically
Yeah.
in that direction.
I'm going to go back, Matthew. Now I'm going to make it really concrete for people in terms of the digital authority audit we did for CIPR Communications, because I didn't quite finish that thought on a tangent as I do. It basically came back and it said, it's really confusing as to how you're positioning yourself in the world. In some ways, you try to position yourself as a general purpose marketing agency that helps the tourism industry. And in other ways, you try to position yourself as a tourism specialized agency that also helps other companies. That was probably the most, and that was that came out of an audit that AI did for us, looking at our websites, looking at how we talk about ourselves on LinkedIn, looking at how we talk about ourselves on other social channels, looking at how we are listed in directories, like just sort of like, and then also what people say about us. And so like that was probably the most aha moment insight probably out of any work I've done for a long time, because it's like no wonder it's like we're confusing online, right? And so like the AI systems aren't going to recommend our business if somebody's searching for something with an AI tool, because it doesn't feel confident in how we've described ourselves and that we're actually the thing they're looking for, because we're confused online. So to Matthew's point, it was like that was like okay, now we need to take a step back and say, okay, who do we want? Okay, this is how we are today. Not perfect. Who do we want to be? And now everything we can do can flow from that who do we want to be basically statement and set of documents. And now all of a sudden we're building documents to help build agents for AI adoption, but built on the right foundation, built on the right messaging, built on the right frameworks, right? And so now they can actually help us accelerate in the right direction really quickly, because now we can write the right content, we're saying the right words, we're going deep in the right places, we have the right case studies, like it all just lines up suddenly, you know what I mean? And so like that's kind of, and now the AI systems that we build can accelerate us really quickly in the right direction, marketing wise and otherwise.
Yeah. So actually, as you're saying that, I know that you and Matthew have done a lot of work on our training program. And so, like on the AI adoption side, and you're teaching people how to create these context documents to feed into the AI systems. So, have you guys now experienced that you've done this several times? Have you experienced any aha moments from organizations who, in building these context documents, are like, because obviously that information is being pulled from websites and like from online stuff? Like, is there a disconnect? Are they having those aha moments about like, oh, wait, this isn't pulling what I thought we were, or is it pretty, like, you know what I mean? Like, are you experiencing that yet on the training side?
Yeah, I mean, yes, like, whenever we pull up what AI is like seeing or saying about a company, I think it's rare to have someone say like, "Oh, that's 100% right." I don't think that's ever really happened. I think we've had some where it's like, "Wow, that's actually shockingly very correct." And in those cases, it's a really good sign of good digital authority. But then other times it's like, whoa, like that's, completely the opposite. And we need to like, it's basically just opening their eyes to like, okay, this is like the digital authority like gap that's happening for you. Like you think one thing, but then people who are actually using these AI tools who could be potential, customers, they could be seeing something totally different that's not representative of you and your company.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about that too, Kendall, because obviously you just did this like yesterday or the day before on one of our clients, but it's also like a deep audit on like actually what is the world saying about this client or this experience or this destination or whatever, because like actually that matters a lot too, right? And so it's like grounding ourselves in what is our actual reputation out there, and do we need to fix it? Do we need to align it? Do we need to change it? And we've worked with we're working with two kind of quite world-class type of organizations right now that like we've done these kind of these audits on, and it's very well aligned. Like one in particular, it was like meet their brand promise, what like the things people say about them online aligns 100% perfectly with how they describe on their website. That is like the sweet spot. You know what I mean? It's like it's not only like, and that's what I kind of keep telling, we're in this world now, we're kind of back to like my saying what's old is new again. We're back to like a traditional PR kind of play, but with more digital assets and more digital tools, right? And so it's like, it's not about what you say about yourself, it's what everybody else says about you, right? And like and then alignment between those things. Or, if it's not aligned and it's what people are saying about you isn't what you want said about you, then that means you have work to do, to Matthew's point. Then it's like, okay, here's my 6 months plan to get there. You know what I mean? And here's what we got to do. And so we got to change the narrative online, right? And so very traditional kind of PR type stuff if you think about it, but again with some technical overlay on it, because there's a whole bunch of things we got to do on websites and otherwise technically to also make sure we're doing that, we're actually visible, and large language models can see us, and there's a whole bunch of technical stuff as well.
Yeah. So in that way, kind of like adoption, internal AI adoption does kind of feed into the external visibility piece, because like you're having these, it's allowing for these conversations to happen, right?
Yeah.
Where I think that people are starting to like see that connection. So up until now, we've obviously done this process with like a lot of TAIN clients, the AI adoption frameworks and the training. What should their next conversation be? They've done this AI training. We probably haven't had the conversations with them during those times about the digital authority piece, because this is something that we just announced. So, kind of looking back, what should the next conversation be for them?
Yeah, I think it's like, to me, it's like a lot of education on our parts to start connecting these dots for people. And it's, the next conversation probably should be, okay, so first of all, we went through a process with you, and how's it going, first of all? But then, by the way, you should also start looking at kind of how what you've done so far in terms of building your AI foundation and structures aligns with kind of what's out there on the internet and how you're telling your story, and sort of like make sure, like, that's kind of the next conversation, right? It's like, okay, you're doing all this great work to get the AIs ready to help do more work for you, but like, let's just take a pause right now and make sure we're in alignment in terms of our digital authority and digital sort of footprint, so that we're not, again, accelerating the wrong direction. Because all of a sudden, if somebody's saying, your destination is X, Y, and Z, and that's like a really great thing, but you're selling yourself as, Z, N, and G, and you're missing an opportunity of like what people really value about you, then you need to like kind of like start to bring that into focus in terms of like, building your AI systems to make sure you're capturing the sentiment of kind of all the good parts of what people think about your destination or your experience, etc.
Yeah, I like what Matthew said there, that the digital visibility or the digital authority is the fuel, and then the internal AI adoption is the gas pedal. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a really good analogy.
It
I like
is.
that. Yeah, just bringing things back to like even internally, because I think that every operation runs differently. They use different tools, and, they have different processes. So I think the best kind of case is like talking about what we do internally, and using that kind of as an example that we can obviously talk about very well. So Matthew, I just want to bring it back to you, like just in terms of AI within our own organization. Um, you've been with us now for what feels like forever, but I think it's been maybe 5 months or 4 months. What surprised you most when you started with TAIN and CIPR, just about how AI was used internally within our organization?
I think that despite the name, I was still surprised by how much AI was encouraged on many levels. Like, not just, we have this standardized tool, but also like go out and experiment with it and push the buttons and figure out new ways to do it, and that it's like it's encouraged in the right kind of like sandbox environment, right? Where we still obviously have the human in the loop required at all times, but still being able to like figure out something new and be able to like share what we're coming up with, and really have a company see AI for what it can be, and what it like how useful it can be for people to like just do their jobs faster and higher quality and easier, all of that.
And just in terms of like integration process, I know that this was also kind of tasked to you when you started, in terms of just like ensuring that our internal team is kind of like practicing what we preach and ensuring those processes are followed. Is that harder than expected?
I don't know if it was harder than expected, because I feel like I went into it like with at least high standards for what I wanted, in terms of, I didn't want to just slap on like a generic, oh, everyone should just be doing this, and to really go into it like, okay, help me understand what you specifically do, where you specifically are getting caught up, and where you have roadblocks, and then figure out a personalized solution for you based on those things. And it obviously looks different for everyone. I think that's where there's a lot of work there, just to figure out, what one person does is not anywhere close to what the other one does. Somebody might do more reporting, someone might do more, client facing communications, whatever. And all of that requires individualized solutions and individualized like aha moments for each of them, of like, oh wow, I didn't realize it could do this.
Just going back to the point that Peter made at the start of the episode, there was just like on a day-to-day basis, even just ensuring that, everyone is kind of following the same processes internally, I think is still, even in our organization where like we are very much AI adopters, is can be challenging for sure. So it's like constant reminders and constant training. And there's just things are changing so fast. So I feel like this is a good segue to bring in what I know Peter is dying to talk about, Claude Code. So speaking of things changing so fast and ever evolving training and trying to keep up to the trends and everything, in an organization like ours, it's great that we are able to kind of play around. So Peter, why don't we turn it over to you? What have you been building? What are you experiencing with Claude Code?
Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, just for everybody's kind of information and understanding, like tools like Claude and ChatGPT have, multiple different sort of tools or subtools kind of built within them, right? And so in the Claude environment, you have your Claude Chat, which is kind of, your chat bot or that's like your your ChatGPT. And then you have Claude Cowork, which is sort of a kind of a coding platform for non-coders. And then you have Claude Code, which is like a coding platform for actual coders. I am not a coder at all. I am not a developer. I just know enough to be dangerous because I've worked with them for my whole life. Obviously, we run a digital agency, so I know a lot. And I've obviously been working with a lot of really smart people, AI people, for the last few years, and just asking a lot of questions and learning and asking Claude and going deeper and deep dives in it. Anyway, long story short is I, for some reason a few weeks ago, said, hey, I wonder if I could just build this with Claude Code. And I tried it and I built it. And so I built a full online application to help with what started was a tool that would help me do a better job of quoting website projects, because website projects are kind of technical to quote and hard and a lot of back and forth with my technical team and whatever. And I was like, hey, can I just like build a tool that plugs in a couple data tools to like sort of like get a couple pieces of data that I need to like effectively do the website quote. And that has turned into quite the project, guys. Now I'm building a whole digital authority platform with a CRM and proposal tool and a whole operating system for our agency. And anyways, it's like really just kind of grown a life of its own. I have like 6 sessions left. So I kind of, the way I work on these things is I sort of build like a bit of a blueprint using like Claude, and then I sort of basically feed that blueprint into Claude Code step by step and kind of take it one step at a time. So I got about 6 more sessions or phases left to finish before I'm like, okay, I think we got something we can test. My goal is to finish that this weekend. And then the moment of truth comes. And so, I mean, I've built this amazing website/app with all kinds of features and functionalities and every data tool we use plugged into it, and Claude as an operating system. Like, it's remarkable. I just don't know if it's going to work. But if it doesn't work, like we have, kind of a technical team of really smart AI people that, can, and the languages harden it for us a little bit and like kind of like fix the little kind of places where maybe the vibe coding approach doesn't work, where you need an actual, like really, high level technical abilities and understanding of what you're doing and why. But I'm really excited about it. And what I'll say is that it's really transformed my view of the future, really transformed just my whole perspective on business. And I'll be honest, it's scaring me a little bit. It's scaring me a little bit. It's a different world. But like, if I'm successful in building this, I'm going to get rid of our CRM. I'm going to get rid of our proposal tool. I'm going to change the way we work with suppliers. I'm going to change the way our whole business runs from top to bottom. Like it's very transformational in ways I just even couldn't have imagined 3 weeks ago. So to be determined, but I think, we're really in this kind of world now but again, back to the initial conversation we had here, it's like, great, you could build this whole thing, but it's like, how does that align? How is it aligned? And how is it sort of going to take you, how is it going to accelerate you in the right direction, not in the wrong direction? And so I wouldn't have been in a place to build this platform the way I did it if I didn't first build the 2 journeys framework and build the digital authority framework and build you know what I mean? Like, so what I'm realizing now is that there's a big piece of all of this, which is the company's individual IP and its kind of secret sauce and its recipes and it's sort of how it does business and how it looks at the world and how it evaluates data. And so that's really the stuff that people really need to start thinking about, I think, and kind of documenting and putting pen to paper on. And obviously AI systems can help us do that. But like that is fundamentally going to be the difference between somebody that just builds some tool to something that builds some tool with a really big strategic purpose that can completely transform their business from top to bottom.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's worth having a chat about vibe coding because I mean, it's amazing what can be built. But obviously, like we all see all the hype out there and all the LinkedIn posts about vibe coding and people just like built like teams of people all on the same team building multiple different tools and ultimately none of them doing anything. And then, just like the cleanup that happens. But I think like what you're saying right now is that you went in with a very clear purpose of what you were
Mhm.
building. You had like you said, the document, the context and like the reality of like, okay, if this doesn't work, like I have a developer that can help me figure it out. Like
Yeah.
you're not hoping to wave a magic wand, but I do think there is like a lot of hype out there. Like, I don't know what, can you talk to that at all? Like about just how realistic people should be when they're vibe coding?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, definitely. So, first of all, I'll say is like, I've been thinking about this stuff and researching for 4 years straight now. Like, and you know me, I'm a pretty OCD guy and I don't sleep. And it's like, it's kind of a really unhealthy behavior. It's not the healthiest thing for me, so like, I'll tell you a story about one of our clients that's not in tourism. And this guy kind of went down the rabbit hole of the AI hype cycle and, came to me and was like, okay, I want to build all this stuff. And I took it to our dev team because I was like, wow, this guy's really ambitious, got big plans here, right? And I took it to our dev team and they said, yeah, so this guy basically this is going to cost $750,000 and he'll have n equals one customers himself, and he will be basically like fixing software for the rest of his life, his one software that he's the only client for. So he's like, this is a bad idea. You know what I mean? And like it was just too much, too ambitious, too much all at once. And so like, but again, he thought, and he basically told me he's done with AI because he thought that based on what he heard on YouTube, like he would just be able to like imagine this and it would just magically come true. And it's like it's just really doesn't work that way. And but having said that, definitely the technology is getting better. Definitely it's possible to do things now that you just couldn't do like 3 months ago. Even I honestly think I couldn't have done this with Opus 4.6, but now I can do it with Opus 4.7 to give you an example, right? So like it doesn't mean we're not heading in a direction where this is going to be a very possible future in 3 to 6 months. Like I think it will be, but it still takes a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, a lot of understanding. Like I've had to like literally, I'm not joking you, like to like make certain connections connect to my tool. Like I've had to go back with Claude Code like 8 times, 10 times with screenshots. Like tell me which buttons to press and what to put into those buttons step by step. I'm an idiot. I have no idea what I'm doing. Please slow down. Right. So like that is like the embarrassing way I'm doing this, but I'm managing to get through it. And this is a guy who, works in technology, teaches, hires a lot of people that do this stuff all the time, has built website, you know what I mean? So like a pretty high level of kind of technical understanding. So, just kind of go in eyes open. Like I encourage everybody to try and experiment, but like start really, really small. Just do little micro steps. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Do one little thing and you know what I mean? And just don't get caught up in the hype cycle.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
temper your expectations because
Expectations.
it's the most annoying thing ever seeing all those people on Twitter and everything saying how they've, completely revolutionized every little thing. And it's like, okay, but what have you actually done? Because I see you've done absolutely nothing. I watched like a 30-minute tutorial on like use Claude Code or Claude Cowork better than 99% of people, and everything that they did I could have done in Claude Chat. So I left that being like, what is the point here? Like, why am I? It's just people just obviously want the hype and the clicks and all that. So it sucks. It's you really have to like go into it tempering your expectations and trying to find those sources of people who actually tell it as it is of like, okay, yes, there's all this like craze about this stuff, but here's what actually can be done. And I think the way that you did it is a perfect example of that, of like, not going into it like, oh, I'm going to have this completely fleshed out thing and it's going to be, whatever. It's like, but it is still at the end of it, even if it doesn't work, or maybe even if you need to, reach out to those people, whatever, it is still a testament of you couldn't have done that 6 months ago, a year ago.
No.
We would have had to use a developer for every step of it.
Yeah.
And so even looking at it like that, of we got it to an 80% point, we got a working prototype that now we can perfect. There are still wins from that, and
There's a lot
huge
of
wins
wins
from
from
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I think also like to your point, it's like, be grateful for the amazing things you can actually do. And let's talk quickly about Claude Design, because that's a new sort of feature from Claude that came out. And it's like, it's not at a place yet where you can get perfect designs done by Claude Design, but it's at a place where you can put some words in and get some design ideas to give to a designer to get you faster to perfect in one shot versus trying to go back and forth 8 times trying to get, here's what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? So like that's a massive win. Like that is a huge, huge, huge win. And so that's just one small example, right? And same thing with this. It's like, I've talked to our technical team about it, and it's like, oh, I don't think this is going to work the way you think, but like I don't think it means that they have to start from scratch. I think it means that
Hmm.
now all of a sudden they can take what I've done and add the last mile to it and make it amazing, right? And so like those are huge, huge wins, right?
Hmm.
And so I think it's just sort of like, kind of having really good eyes open about how what success looks like and what it doesn't look like, and kind of what's possible today versus what might be possible in 6 months or whatever. But like, back to the original conversation here, it's like fundamentally it all starts with, good AI intuition, good systems and processes, good context documents, good organization internally. Like everything that we've talked about in AI maturity is the foundation for all of this stuff, right? And so like you still have to put in the work. It's not going to magically just like be the solution to all your problems, unfortunately. And so that's kind of the process we try to take people through. It's the unsexy work of learning and evolving.
Yeah, well, when this tool is complete, this whole digital authority audit, it's going to provide so much amazing data and information that is going to be of such value to any client we work with, and for our internal team too, just in the way that it will bring the whole team in on all of the nitty-gritty details about what
Yeah.
is all about the client and what needs to be done. So, I guess one of the final questions I want to wrap up with here is, what does this repositioning of CIPR's digital authority unlock for TAIN clients?
Yeah. So I think as I think about the answer to that question, it's a much more holistic approach. And so really I just see, first of all, if I build this tool right and it works the way I think it's going to work, it's going to be able to allow us to honestly offer so much value so fast that we'll be able to accelerate a lot of work. And, like things like building context documents and building the data systems and building all that. Like I think we're going to be able to get help customers get there programmatically a lot faster. Right now we're doing kind of manually, right? And so I think we're going to be able to kind of also build a system like what I built with the digital authority platform as an AI adoption platform, and sort of a kind of a live, and and potentially it could be a platform for businesses even to use to self administer their AI maturity or whatever, right? And so we'll see. But I just think we can do things in a lot more programmatic platform type ways. And I think that that actually has a lot of value. And so, back to your original kind of thing, Kendall, you were talking about with respect to the way we sort of brought digital authority into our company, and we had all these recorded conversations. Like one of the things these tools do too is plug into our Zoom and keep an ongoing record of conversations and an ongoing record of decisions and all, you know what I mean? And sort of like there's like a log system and all that kind of stuff. So, really it's, interestingly, because it's all kind of the big shift here really is it's become a lot easier to kind of have more of a dynamic database kind of living system than it was 6 months ago. Because now we can kind of tie all that in together with code, right? And so like that, the ability to do that really changes a lot of capacity and capability issues with respect to consistency and tracking and, you know what I mean? All of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to really accelerate in a positive way all of the work we do at TAIN as well as the work we do at CIPR Communications, and potentially package all of that work together into almost like a single package.
That's great. Matthew, what are you excited for in the next 12 months with all the training that we're doing and increasingly doing, just with the changes that we're making?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously being more on the teen side, I focus a bit more on the AI adoption rather than the digital authority. But I think it's just exciting to see how they are integrated and how, one without the other is kind of just half the story, or you're not getting the full, like, and it's not even that doing both you get, double. It's like it's exponentially more, beneficial for to have both of those going at the same time. And so having, the digital authority piece, having customers or clients that, what they say they are and what they actually are is out there. And, when we do those clients where we give them that report and they're like, yeah, this is really accurate. Like we want everyone to like have that result and be like, this is absolutely representative of what we offer, what we want to offer, who we want to be. And then on the other side, like the actual individuals who run those organizations, and often it's the 2 people who run that operation, the 3 people. It's not, a huge team.
Yeah.
And so for the AI adoption piece, it's like the empowerment that it gives them. And to Peter's point of like things like Claude Code or Claude Design, like, it's one thing to look at it like, oh, you're a huge company, like, you should be, partnering with designers and all of those things. And I think that's still true. But I think of the the 2 people running, an organization, that it's not feasible for them to hire all these people, hire all these designers. So having that be like a huge just bridge across the gap that they had
Mhm.
is where I see like a huge benefit for them. Is like you've just skipped through and been able to like design things that you couldn't have before. And now that's just contributing to your individual like productivity, but your organization's success as well.
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's very amazing. Like, it's just so fun. And it's so fun to see all the organizations we work with approaching things with curiosity. I think anyone who's
Mhm.
coming to us has a curious mindset. They want to learn. And I think that's a really cool thing. And even just like internally, even with us, it's like the ability to be curious and be a messy learner. Like
Yeah.
you said, Peter, like to say, like, I'm an idiot. Teach me how to do this. Like, and
Please.
that's okay. Like, it's so okay right now to be a messy learner. And I think if there's anything we can take away from this, it's just to kind of keep that curious mindset and just keep playing. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
fun.
And maybe when I'll say one kind of piece of advice for maybe leaders out there, but really for anybody, is like just carve out a reasonable amount of time for curious learning, messy learning, discovery, all of that stuff. Because like it's if you're not doing that, like I don't know, for me, I just see such a divergence happening right now of the people who are really kind of at the forefront or figuring this stuff out or even just doing anything with it, and those who are like not. And we see this, Matthew, in our training, right? It's like, it's like, okay, like very, very slow baby steps, which is totally fine. Like any better to start somewhere and just start. But versus kind of like people who are like deep into it, it's like, man, it's such a big gap that keeps growing faster and faster.
Yeah.
Well, I think if unless you have something else to add, Peter, it's a good spot to wrap it up. Great.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the conversation.